Well, good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. I have been so excited, probably because I'm a manager myself, but I've been so excited about this particular panel. This is part of a series that Alternative Venues for Jazz will be doing. I think you might know that last time we did one on the economics of the jazz industry. And today I thought we would start with sort of the building blocks of a jazz musician's career, and that is agents and managers. I do know that there are a lot of self represented artists, and we're actually gearing some of this toward you. We're going to ask this panel the questions that you sent to me in Alternative Venues for Jazz. I will introduce myself. I'm Gail Boyd. I'm a manager, I'm an attorney, and I'm also moderating this panel. I've been working with, for example, John Clayton for 31 years, and I've just recently started working with Mark Ruffin, who is the program director for Sirius XM Radio, who also does a lot of production. Next to me is Michelle Taylor, who is one of my oldest, and I don't mean age, but just my dearest friends. And Michelle Taylor has been a manager. She had a recording career, a record company career, but she now works with Matthew Whitaker, the String Queens, and Christy Dashiell, who just got a Grammy nomination. Eric Oberstein, I remember him from Harlem Stage when we worked together a lot. And he's always been a presenter and a producer and multi-Grammy winner. But now he has a management company. And two of the people that he represents are Claudia Acuna and Daphnis Prieto. And then Pat Harris, I don't know when we've known each other. I think it's been like since we were teenagers, but it feels like it anyway. But Pat Harris has Pat Harris Associates, Love Productions Records. She manages Alan Harris, who does about 5,000 different things, and she manages all of that. Chris Mees, I remember when he first got started. It hasn't been 30 years. I think he's only 25. But he was a manager, and I think he still manages some artists, but he has B Natural Productions, and among the people that he now books is Diane Reeves, Branford Marcellus, and the list goes on. That's true for each of them. They have multi artists on their rosters. And one of my newest friends, but still I've known him now about 4 years, is Ryan Anderson. And he has, Big Fish Booking Company, and they have a very large roster, and you all should look for that as well. But among the people that he books is Gary Bartz and Kurt Elling. So this is my roster. I mean, this is my roster. I could not imagine a greater group of people to start this out. And I just want to say a couple of things before we get started. And that is that when musicians are coming up, they often want to know, they have such a mystery around agents and managers. And people ask like, well, what does an agent actually do? What does a manager actually do? When do you need one? How do you know when you need one? And so a lot of emerging artists are asking those questions that we hope to answer today. So we're going to pull back the curtain a little bit. And I want to start out by asking each one of you in your particular fields. We'll start with Michelle. What does a manager do? Simply,
succinctly. I would just say as succinctly as possible, helping the artist, the creator, navigate their careers at all different levels, from helping them to secure more of a team, whether that's an agent, a booking agent, or a publicist, or a record label, or whatever the case may be, working with them on all of the administrative side of what they do. There's a lot that goes into a gig, and there's a lot of back end that needs to happen so that the artist, all they need to worry about is stepping on stage and doing what they do. So there's a lot that goes into what we do. I would just say in a nutshell, helping the artists navigate their careers.
Thank you. Eric.
Thanks, Gail. Good to be with you all. To me, a manager is a partner to an artist and is helping that artist think about both long-term strategy and vision, as well as the day-to-day. The manager is helping to build infrastructure around the artist to help them succeed. Every artist has different goals, So we really personalize the approach to each individual artist based on what they're hoping to achieve. But yeah, it's some combination of all of the above, trying to maximize opportunities for that artist to make a living, to find new sources of revenue, to perform, tour, record, all the things that they hope to do. So we're in the trenches with them, yeah, as a partner every day.
Thank you, Eric. Pat.
Hi, Gail. So good to be here. Thank you for pulling this together. I feel like I'm in esteemed company. As a manager, I am. As a manager of a solo artist, I find what I do is probably a bit different because it's all inclusive. I do it pretty much from the booking to the coordinating between travel to tech, designing websites, managing all of the things that an artist needs to have done. It's a 24-hour job. And I have gone from managing more than one artist, but since COVID came about, I decided to just tailor it down and helping artists choose projects and present their image of what they want to be seen as and what they're doing. The more projects an artist has to present to presenters, the better and the more successful I feel they can be. And I feel like that's part of my goal.
Thank you. Now, Chris, you're an agent. Tell us succinctly what an agent does. And also tell us a little bit about if there's any overlap between agency and managing.
Sure. I think at the fundamental core, we work with the artist team on the live performance side. So we will be the connector between the artist and the presenter or the buyers, the venues. And we help strategize building their touring, building their touring domestically, internationally, wherever the agent may be and whatever territory they may cover. And then fundamentally, we essentially negotiate the fees and the terms for the deal and contract it, and then receive payments and pay out the artists. So I mean, I think that's kind of, in a very simple nutshell, that's the focus of it. And then the overlap, I think there definitely is overlap in the jazz world for sure. I think certain artists in the jazz world, as you mentioned, don't actually have managers. So in those cases where an artist is self-managed, we as the agents take on a lot of that responsibility, which may mean simply, handling the travel, creating the itinerary, things like that, more of like tour managing, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, everything Chris just said, and then the overlap definitely exists, especially when young or new or building artists come to us. And I would say one of the things that we do for younger or newer artists is really kind of strategically figure out how to build an artist's career on the live side, and with visibility, getting them in front of the right people, getting them in front of the right presenters. So there's an element of what we do that's just also putting eyes on young artists.
That brings me to a very interesting question, and that is, what do you look at? And right now I'm talking about the two agents. What do you look for in an artist before you make a decision that you are ready to add that artist to your roster? Start out, Chris.
Yeah, sure. That's my favorite question, actually. It's because it's my favorite thing to do, honestly, is I love finding new artists and getting inspired about helping them build. That's what inspires me to do the job. For me, it's a really kind of an instinctual thing, and I'm a musician myself, so I have ears, and I think that for me, that's a big part of it, is that it's what are they contributing to the conversation? And when I say conversation, I mean jazz music or music as a whole. Like, where do they fall into the whole conversation? And do I see a space for them with all the people that I have relationships with? And a lot of times that it has a lot more that doesn't just have to do with how they sound. Like how they sound is one piece of it, but then it's also how do they present themselves? What music are they creating? Who are they playing with? You know, for example, I generally find new artists because they're already collaborating with other artists that I know about.
Yeah.
And I'll say, man, who's this person I've never heard of, but they're playing with so and so at the Vanguard.
Right.
Like, obviously they're playing something, you know, obviously they have something to say.
Right.
So I start checking them out, and then I start following them for some time and seeing what they're doing. And, you know, depending on what they're doing, and also, is the agency in a place where there's a space for them?
Right.
And that's also kind of tricky because I run a boutique style agency that's like, it's small. We have a small dedicated team, and there's not space for everybody. So even if, there's many great artists that I'd love to sign, but it just doesn't work for one reason or another. But if I see somebody that's really doing something special, and it's an instrument or a voice that we're looking for at that time, that's usually what it is. Say it's, hey, we could really use a great trumpet player, or, you know, something like that. And then I start looking, who are all the trumpet players out here and what are they doing? And I start whittling it down that way.
Okay. Michelle, now for management, what are you looking for when an artist comes to you for management? What kinds of things go through your mind, and what kinds of questions do you ask that artist?
Well, first and foremost, I want to make sure that their music or what they're doing moves me in some way. I want to make sure that I'm feeling something, I'm getting a vibe from who that artist is. I want to make sure I have to first feel it. That's number one. And when I'm considering an artist, I will oftentimes go out and check out their shows, see how they, whether they're performing with a band or sitting in with someone, or just, how they perform. I think one of the questions I ask artists when they come to me is, why do you feel you need management? That's number one, because, management is a business, as is booking. It's a business. So I'm very careful in making certain that the artist knows that it's a business. And if I'm really interested, I want to have a conversation. I want to know where they are in their careers, what they're looking for, where they want to go. And also, like Chris said, I want to make sure that it's a fit with the roster, whether I have space on the roster, and whether or not there's a lane that I think I can help them go into or explore. With a new artist, oftentimes they're just really talented, and I feel inspired, and I want to jump in and help them. With a more established artist, it's what can I add to what they're already doing? So yeah, that's pretty much it.
So Ryan, have you and your agency ever gone after an artist who didn't come to you?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
How does that work? What did you see? What made you decide we want this person on our roster?
It happens in a couple different ways, but I could tell a specific story that just happened that I'm really excited about, that kind of touches on all of this stuff, because I think what Chris is saying is 100% true. We have a really curated roster. There's kind of a vibe to what Big Fish does. So, we try to keep things, it's curated. They have to kind of fit in this space that is something that moves us. But the other side of it that I think is really important is it's a business. And I think the thing that really attracts me to young or new artists are the ones that understand that. And I've been following this kid for a while. It's Sam Freibush. He's an organ player. He's amazing. He's young. He's doing this project with Corey Fonville. It's really cool. And I've also booked Charlie Hunter. And I've been looking at it, and Charlie called me one day. And he told me, he's like, I'm going out to lunch with Sam, you should call Sam. Like, Sam fits in what you're doing. You guys would get along. I had a really great talk with Charlie, and I called Sam, and already being a huge fan of his music, already interested in it, all that piece was already there.
Mhm.
The thing that really hit me is, like, within 20 minutes on the call, he's young. He could tell me exactly what he wanted out of his career. He knew his numbers. He knew what he had made last year. He had a goal for what he wanted to make this year. He had every question that I asked, that are things like, well, where do you see yourself playing? What are the goals for in festivals that you want to hit? What do you want touring to look like? He had an answer to all of those questions, and Corey did too. And as we started to work together and working with his management and his team, it's just really been easy and fun and inspiring. And sorry, this is long-winded, but I think that piece of it, that understanding that you're running a small business.
Mhm.
And so if you bring an agent and a manager on board, that's a team. You need to understand your business. And I'm really, really attracted to the people that have that mindset, that they're on top of their business.
And Gail, if I may, it's what Eric said. It's a partnership.
Yeah.
It really is a collaboration and a partnership.
And that's where I was going to go to Eric, because I think you might be the newest manager on the horizon right now. And so you had to make decisions. And how did you make a decision on your for lack of a better word, what was going to be your footprint? What was going to be different about Eric Oberstein Productions, and what was going to be the thing that you were looking for when you looked for artists?
Yeah, I honestly was coming from the other side. I was a presenter for so long, but I also worked on the artist side as well. I started my career with Arturo O'Farrell, running his nonprofit and his orchestra. And I've always felt like I was in the trenches with artists. But then from the presenting side, I knew exactly what presenters were looking for in terms of course, artistic quality first and foremost, but then that the artists had professional assets, that they had high quality photos, high quality video, that they took, not that this is an end all be all, but their metrics out in the world, their followers on social media, their streaming. Again, I'm cautious about putting too much value on that, but the industry does focus on these things. So for me, I actually started my company with 3 artists that I had worked with previously, and there was deep trust already.
Okay.
With Daphnis Prieto, I had been his producer and de facto manager for 10 years prior, even though we hadn't called myself his manager. So that's really what kicked it off. And I also launched with Michaela Marino Lerman, who we had commissioned when I was at Harlem Stage. And tap dancer, yes, and band leader. Yep. And then Cali Rodriguez Peña, Cuban trumpeter, one of the leading Cuban band leaders in New York right now. I met him when he was 18 in Havana. So it's this sort of depth of relationship that I was really looking for. Now, when I, put my shingle out there, other artists with whom I had worked previously came to me and said, "Oh, you're doing this. This is great. Let's work together." Now, I couldn't invite every artist I've worked with in my career. I don't have that capacity. So for me, I was seeking. I call them culture changing artists.
Mm-hmm.
These are artists who there's no one else like them. They are here to offer something new and special and unique to the world. They are one of one, and they, in their own ways, are just making space for other artists or pushing the art form forward. And I'm also seeking a level of seriousness.
Yeah.
I want artists to be digging, sort of in the trenches with me, rolling up their sleeves. If I get any whiff that an artist, they say, "Oh, great, Eric's my manager, I can relax."
Yeah.
We know that that's not a fit.
No.
So those were some of the cues that I was thinking about out of the gate.
Eric, you also do some, I'm sorry, Gail, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was just curious, do you also do a little booking as well as managing?
Yes. Yeah, it's an interesting story. When I announced my company, which I call a management and producing company because I'm also a producer and produce both records and performance projects, a lot of artists came to me saying, "Great, you're an agent, let's start." And I paused for a second. I thought, why do they keep coming to me thinking I'm an agent? And then I realized, oh, the way that artists, especially in jazz, make a living is through gigs. And the term manager and agent is often interchangeable. Now, in like in Europe, for example, or in the classical world, the word manager actually means agent. So there's a lot of confusion around vocabulary. But honestly, my offering to work on booking as well was purely out of need. The artists just, they can't afford, there aren't enough of us out here to support everyone. So because I had a presenting background and I knew how to navigate the booking process as well, that has become a part of what I offer. But I think it's important to say that when it's just us or we're working in small teams, like Chris mentioned, we have to be very careful about not over-committing or promising the world to everyone.
Yes.
You have to be very specific about what is realistic based on your capacity, so that folks don't feel like they've been led on or there's some misalignment in terms of expectations.
Pat, I was going to say, you have one artist,
Yes,
but you do everything.
exactly.
So is social media important to you? Tell me how what you do might be different from someone who has a whole roster, because you're doing everything. You're booking, you're managing, you're producing the record.
So it's true. And I'm thinking that there's a lot of artists out there who are doing the same thing. They're trying to maintain their own careers. And so we're all in-house. So management, agency, record label, production team, tour manager, I do it all with just this one artist. I'm always amazed at managers who can do more than one artist, who don't have, a team to help them, because I see, just from my own perspective, how deep the management goes, because it's 24 hours, all inclusive, everything. It's, from what you look like, from what you're putting out there, from the touring aspect, you have having the tech riders, everything ready to go, having all of the PR, hiring the right people to do the PR, to run the label, to get your music seen, heard. Social media, which is, I call it the evil that must be fed. It's just a constant barrage. You have to have a good plan for that. And frankly, I think sometimes all the plans in the world get shifted aside from last minute things that happen suddenly. You think you're going to do something and then you turn right. You have to be able to move quickly. And that's one of the things I think that has helped us, because we're small, we can move very quickly. And I think that's been helpful.
So I want each of you to tell me, what are some of the mistakes that you see emerging artists make repeatedly? Have you seen the same thing happen over and over, and then they don't stop? They just keep digging the hole deeper. Start with Michelle and then go around.
The mistakes. I mean,
Pass it.
what was that?
If you need more time, you can pass it to the next person.
Well, I mean, I think what comes to mind initially, and I've had this conversation with some artists, is selling themselves short for the sake of having a gig. I mean, I know that there are a lot of independent artists that need to work. I get that. But at the same time, they're valuable. What they bring to the space is valuable. And oftentimes they are not, they settle for peanuts and I'm not saying they're going to make a tremendous amount of money booking themselves and what have you, but recognize their value. And I would also say that's one thing. And then I would also say, and some of our panelists mentioned it, having your stuff together, like have a writer, some kind of a writer, have some kind of a stage plot. So when you go out to a gig, if that you may have booked yourself, they know how to set up your stage. If you're
These are artists without management you're talking about, I would guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Artists without management.
some of the ones that, people that are self independent. So I mean, I would just say not to sell yourself short, and also, have some of the tools necessary, because you are the CEO of your company. And you want to make certain that your presentation, if anyone's going to take you seriously, you have to take yourself seriously.
Okay.
And that's really important.
Ryan.
I would say on the younger side, the amount of emails that I've received from people who are about to or have just graduated music school and have decided that they are going to go on tour is impressive. Like, hey, so I'm going to do it. You obviously want to book this tour, right? That one makes me laugh, where it's kind of like you need to establish yourself a little first.
Right.
So that's a big part. I think especially in jazz, understanding you kind of need to establish something before taking it across the country or the world. The other big one that I think about a lot, and we talk a lot about at Big Fish, is really thinking about the sustainability of a career and an audience, that your job is really building and maintaining your fan base. And how do you do that? And for us on the live side, there's a lot of pieces to it. And one of the things that I think is a mistake that I see a lot of people personally, that we think a lot of people in jazz make, there are all of these kind of different areas of shows to play in jazz. You could play your club shows, you could play your festivals, and you have your performing arts center, which we all call soft money. And I think that a lot of jazz artists, because of the financial need, lean on the soft stuff way, way, way too heavily. And they never actually develop an audience. So that when that soft stuff goes away and they have to go sell tickets, they realize they can't. And that's more of a longer in the career, but that's something that I think about a lot, where what we try to do strategically is balance those things so that I think in a time like this, long-winded again, but improvised music and jazz, I think, is kind of an amazing thing to combat the AI slop of the world that's happening right now. I think being in a space with improvised music is something that we see younger audiences leaning into. Our roster has a lot of international anthem or younger bands that have younger audiences. And sometimes those bands will jump into playing a performing arts center, and all of a sudden their tickets go from being $25 to $50. And we think a lot about how do you straddle those worlds and maintain and build your audience so you can have a sustainable career. And sustainability is the big thing. I think we're not just thinking about how much you can get for this show, but how do we build this across a career?
How do you? I'm curious.
Right. I want Chris to answer, and then we can go back to Ryan.
Yeah, no. So I second everything Ryan said up there. But I would say the thing that young artists do consistently that is a problem is just poor communication.
Yeah.
I mean, it's shocking that it really. I've had so many times where I've actually gone to a young unknown artist and I'm trying to get them on the roster. And they're not responding. I'm just like,
That's crazy.
Not being arrogant or anything, because it's not about me, but I'm just like, I don't think they understand what's going on. Like, and I lose interest really fast because I'm like, if you can't respond to my email, like, you're not ready.
Now let me flip that, Chris. What about an older, more established artist who has never had an agency, but they're doing okay?
Mm-hmm.
what kind of mistakes are they making that are not getting your interest?
Believing they're worth more than they are.
Oh, that's interesting.
Wait, they're
And
not.
It's a brutal truth.
Say more. Say more.
It's a brutal truth. I mean, because as Ryan mentioned, many jazz artists have fallen prey to well, even still, there's a soft money that exists out there through grant funding, through whatever budgets that the PAC, Performing Arts Centers, have, that they put on so many shows every year, and they only do 4 jazz shows, and they can lose money on it. I always say, those are the people that have money to lose.
Yeah.
And they're out there. And there is a business for that. However, I think a lot of those mid-career jazz artists, they just can't understand why one venue can pay $10,000 and another venue can't, and why can't. But I got $10,000 over here that one time,
Right.
and that's their number now.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, and 70 people showed up to the show.
Right.
So do the math.
Yeah.
So I think that's really for me, and it's been a really hard thing to navigate, because a lot of those artists, their cultural value is significant.
Yeah.
It is. I also understand their perspective, where they're like, man, I'm not going to go play for $2,500.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 30 years. What are you talking about? And I get that too. And it's just the unfortunate challenge that we have in a society that really doesn't support the arts.
Yeah, I think that's also like a major thing, is we don't have that kind of support.
They're just, at the end of the day, America has never cared about this music.
No.
That's true.
And that's just a battle that it's just what it is. And it's steeped in racism. It's steeped in all the things.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, just because we're agents doesn't mean that we can make it happen.
Right.
And that's a saying I always say, I don't create demand, I help facilitate demand.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yes.
There has to be demand. The artist has to create demand. There has to be,
And
the phone has to ring back.
the artist doesn't create it, because sometimes Steve Backer, I don't know who remembers Steve Backer. I know you do, Michelle, you worked with him, but he was head of several labels. And he used to talk about that indefinable thing called buzz. Sometimes it's just something that an artist has, that they're not actually trying to get the buzz. They just have it, and then it attracts the interest of agents and managers, and then venues, and then festivals, and so forth. And I think we all know people who kind of have that indefinable thing called buzz, and somebody who's been out here 20 years has not gotten it, and they don't know what they've done wrong. And sometimes they haven't done anything wrong.
Right. Exactly.
I think in America, we're obsessed with youth and death. Yeah. Seriously though, it's like an artist is super valuable when they're the new fresh thing,
Right.
and then they're valuable again after they die.
Oh,
Mhm.
so
One
true.
of the people who's listening to us right now just wrote and said, would you as an agent try to get one artist one gig, because the festival will only deal with them if they have representation? Is that something that either of you agents would take on? If they come to you and say, hey, this festival is interested, but they just need an agent to book it.
Me personally, if it's like a homie, then yes. Like if it's somebody that I know on the scene and I know them, and they understand that just because I'm doing this one deal does not mean that I'm now your agent,
That's right.
then I would do that.
One off. Mhm.
All right.
That's
So,
interesting.
yeah, that is interesting. How about you, Ryan? Would you do that for someone?
Same thing. If it's a friend and I'm helping somebody out, but there's also a level of it that we owe our roster that pitching power. We owe it to our roster to be working our roster,
Mhm.
and I think a commitment to working them across the board. And I'd also say, so yeah, like for a friend, exactly what Chris said. But for festivals and packs, sometimes, you know, just to add on to what Chris was saying when he was talking about maybe they book 4 spots, we also know that probably 2 of those are already spoken for. You know,
Right.
like 2 of those are going to be a certain legacy artist, maybe Jazz at Lincoln Center. So really, you have all of these people fighting over 2 spots.
Right.
It's really competitive right now.
Mhm.
When people ask, can you help with this one thing or can you help here? For us as a small agency, outside of like the friendship thing, which is its own thing, we really have to be, it has to be that partnership that Eric was talking about
Yes.
for us to really make it work.
How do you get a booking agent? I'm looking at a question from a booking agent in Detroit who books local artists, but they want to know, how do they move from being a local booking agent over into the kinds of things that you guys do, Chris and Ryan? Is there anything that they need to be looking at for themselves to say, I need to be able to reach out to more festivals? Like, how do you have a relationship with all the people that you do, all the presenters that you do? How do you teach a new agent who is in Detroit and who's doing local things? What would you tell that agent to get to be more national?
Do you want to take it, Ryan? Or?
Time. It takes time. It takes time. It takes sending a lot of messages to a lot of people that you might not hear back from. It takes a lot of digging. It takes a lot of making mistakes or being wrong. Like, I think Chris in the same boat. I think our agencies we were both musicians. And everybody at Big Fish, Chris and Tina, who started the company, were both musicians. That's how we met. And you kind of just started, we just started doing it.
Yep.
And one of the big parts is networking, going to shows, meeting people, reaching out. A thing that we used to do in the world called being social.
Exactly.
That's a really big part.
That's very true. I would add to that. I
What's
mean,
the first thing you would tell the agent to do?
Oh, sorry. First thing. Well, I would probably tell him to start looking at tour posters of artists that are similar to the artists that he represents. Find out where they play and literally look up find who the buyer is there.
Okay.
And start making and call them.
I mean, and I would imagine networking is so important outside of your local market, and networking is so important.
But I was gonna say similar to what Ryan is saying. I mean, I think Big Fish and Be Natural kind of came around. I think we're coming up around the same time, and we still are coming up. I mean, it's not like we've arrived. It's not like that. I mean, we're grinding every day.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I spent at least 10 years of sitting in front of the computer all day, every day, and just banging it out. There's no magic sauce.
Right.
You know what I mean? There still isn't. I mean, it's now obviously it gets easier once you've built a roster that has artists of recognition.
Right.
So people answer my calls now. You know,
Right.
that's a big deal. That is a difference.
That is a big deal.
Sometimes they even call you.
Yeah.
Right. And
But
if
it
I
took
need
time to get
answer-
there, right? And you remember, like, some of those emails when some of the people started writing back forever ago, 10 years ago. Sometimes getting that first email back, there were some that I was like, I've emailed that guy 100 times.
Exactly.
I think
Exactly. No, for real. For real.
I mean, it's
I couldn't. There were people. There were some folks at APAP, the conference recently, and I won't say who they are. Everyone knows who they are. But is a presenter that's everyone knows and has been working forever. And he's like, "Man, I remember you were trying to get a meeting with me for like 7 years before I met you." You know. And we laughed about it, but that was the truth. You know, it was like I was just out there trying to get folks to respond, and then over time. You get that artist that you've been building grows a bit and something is happening, and then all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, maybe I should check this out, right? And then and then you sign a bigger artist,
Right.
and then all of a sudden, and then it flips around where it's like now they want your artist.
Now they want your artist. Well,
And I'm like, sorry, we're not available.
Michelle, you were making a point, and
Well, I was just going to say it's sort of the same with management. I mean, when you start managing, basically, I would imagine if you don't come from another management company and start your own, you're basically working with a friend, or you're trying to help a friend get some gigs, and then one thing turns into another. But I too, as a manager, I spend a lot of my time on the phone, on email, reaching out to people and trying to get a response. That's one of my biggest pet peeves in this industry is simply, responding, a simple courtesy, like, yes, we're interested. No, we're not, whatever, just respond, but it's the same thing with management. It takes a while. I mean, I've been doing this for a very long time, and, it does take time. And, that's another thing that I always like to talk with my clients about, is that it takes time. Things are not going to happen automatically just because now you have a manager and an agent. Your career's not going to turn around overnight. It takes time, and you have to kind of be willing to, give it the time necessary, because as Chris said, we're out here in the trenches every day working hard.
Well, and nowadays, calling people, just cold calling them, is very challenging, because everybody wants an email or a text first before you call them, right? If they don't respond to email or text, then you just have to take that next step and call. But it's become so mandatory that you do this reach out before you actually talk to anybody. But it is changing. One of the things that's changing in New York is there's a lot of jazz clubs opening. I mean,
thank goodness.
Which is great. Yes.
They were closing one by one, and now they're opening. I
Love it.
I'm
that's
pleased
great.
to see that.
Jazz,
All over in LA too.
yeah.
As well, right? I've been hearing that
Rodney
too.
Scott's is coming.
Oh, that's right. The Blue Note has opened. And,
Notes in LA, and now
Yes.
the Pocket and Jazz Cultural, and
Yes.
that's more work. Now the key is it enough work to sustain an artist?
I think one of the things that a manager that artists often want when they come to get a manager is really what they want is a personal assistant that can do some of the things that they don't want to do. And that I find that to be a little frustrating. I've worked with a lot of artists in the past. Somebody brought me their giant book of copyrights, or because they needed to have it copyrighted. They needed me to do all of that. I was like, that is a lot of work. Is that a manager's job?
Mm-hmm.
You guys,
Maybe it depends, right?
Yeah.
It depends on what the artist needs.
yeah. But I felt at that point in his career that was not my job, because it was his book, and he should have been copywriting it all along. However, needless to say,
I mean, I think the job responsibilities of a manager kind of depend on the artist. You're a different manager to different people because their needs are different.
That's true. Very true.
Can I say something about the management side real quick? I will also say that who the artist manager is sometimes affects whether we decide to sign them or not.
That's a
That's a
Why?
great point.
Say more.
good point.
I'm sure.
I mean, if the manager is unrealistic or disrespectful, hard to work with, it's just a hard no.
Yeah.
Hard no.
Yeah, because it's, it really, sometimes managers can be the problem,
Yeah.
right?
Seen that.
Unfortunately. And then also the flip side of that, some managers are awesome.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, can you sign some more artists? And like, I'll literally recommend more artists to that manager.
Mhm.
Yeah, there are certain managers out there that in a phone call, a manager and I can figure out an artist's year.
Yep.
And kind of execute things really quickly. And I love those people that are on top of it, that are easy to communicate with. And there are other managers who I think kind of expect agents to be driving the bus on things, like we're supposed to bring them. All right.
I don't know who that was.
That was me. That was one of those managers.
One of those managers.
Leave me alone. I'm talking about you now. But I think there's some like really great working relationships and some kind of an understanding that we're all a team.
Mm-mm.
Not a manager.
24 hours.
Turn that off. But I think an understanding that like the thing that we need to do is work as a team,
Right.
and the managers that get that and actually really know how to communicate what they want with agents. Those are my favorite.
Yeah,
Great.
exactly.
I
What's-
have a student who is about to graduate soon saying, at what point should an emerging artist start building a professional team? And what should they prioritize first? Lawyer, manager, agent, what else? What should they prioritize? Eric.
Well, I don't think they should get any of those things until they've put in the work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They need to learn about their industry. They need to book their own gigs. They need to learn how to market themselves. They need to build some following. They need to become an expert in this business that they are entering.
Mm.
I think it's only beneficial to them once there is a certain demand for them, and where there's a lot of interest from clubs and venues and presenters. Okay, things start to get a little more complicated. I need help. I can't manage this all myself. I need someone to help me catch opportunities coming my way. I think that is when an artist may be ready. Now, alongside that, it's also a question of artistically, are they ready? Because some musicians think that they're there, but they're not there, and they need to practice and they need to work.
Would you say that to an artist if they come to you? Would you say?
Yeah, I would. The folks on this call who know me know that I'm overly diplomatic, but because the art is the center of what we do, I'm going to go check them out. And if they're not moving me,
Exactly.
or if I'm seeing that they're being lazy on the bandstand, or they're not bringing it in a way that just blows my mind, I may, depending on how well I know them, may just say like, give it some time. There's also the instinct that every musician thinks they need a record now as a leader, and they're not ready.
Right.
They need to learn how to put out a record, which is a whole nother art form and craft. But it's really the artists that I love who say, yeah, Eric, I waited until I was ready, until I knew that I could bring it and document what I do in perpetuity, that what I was going to capture was going to be the best representation of me artistically at that point in my trajectory. So everyone thinks they're ready. They're not. They need to commit themselves to their craft. And then when they're making buzz, it's sort of like when Chris was saying, we learn about artists through who they're already collaborating with. Like, especially in our community, we all talk. So if there's a young cat who's playing with an artist like Emmanuel Michael, for example, who all the older, they're not that old, but musicians who have heard of Emmanuel, amazing guy, was talking about him.
Yes.
He's the most unassuming, soft-spoken but badass player. That's the sort of artist that I'm interested in, who's just knocking it out of the park, has something to say, and is respected musically, because the music doesn't lie.
Yeah.
And audiences know that, because they won't connect with an artist if they're not connecting musically with them.
Right.
So true. Tell me about social media and how it works in your life. Michelle, how important is your own social media and social media for your clients?
Well, having come up in the business as a marketing person, I believe social media is an important part of the marketing plan in this industry. I mean, if you're not using social media, then I don't think you're really marketing yourself the way you need to. I market, I have a IG handle that I use for my clients. I don't use that for myself. That basically is, just letting people know what my clients are up to. And then, when it comes to the artist using social media, that's their own preference. Some prefer to post a lot. Some prefer to just do stories. Some prefer to do both. When they have something to say, initially it was about, oh, you need to post every day and da da da. I don't know if that's necessarily the case if you don't really have anything to say. And for the presenters now, they have incorporated social media into their contracts.
Yes.
There's a certain amount, I am happy to agree in a contract for the artist to do some social media, but I don't want the presenter to tell the artist how many posts they have to do and when. We're going to post, absolutely. Part of what we do, my agency, we make certain that we get show graphics as much as we can from each presenter, and we post them and we boost them and we do what we're supposed to do on our end. But that doesn't alleviate the presenter's responsibility to sell their show, right? We'll help. We want to help. It's exciting to help because I love looking at numbers, but they need to do their part as well. So social media in that regard is important. And like I said, with artists, I think being on social media is great, because people find out about you on social media as well. They may not know who you are, and then they see, what you're doing, or they might see a video that's exciting and so they'll go back and they'll begin to do some research. So I think social media it's not going anywhere. It's only becoming, with AI and everything else, it's evolving. So I don't think anybody at this point in where we are in society should be afraid of social media. It's important.
Mike Casey says, so is the new strategy to break through as an artist to fake your own death?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Let's not go there.
Okay, Pat, social media, how do you use it?
I have to use it all the time. It's such a great tool. It's the animal that must be fed, but I do use it constantly in every way I can think of. I love to look at what other artists are doing. I think I talked to you two, Gail and Michelle, a few weeks ago. I'm saying, look at what Ron Carter's doing. I love that Ron Carter's got all these great social media posts. And I've talked to other artists who were in the legacy, age group, and they don't want anything to do with social media. And I just use him as my example of how important it is and how it can help you reestablish yourself, your name when a new project is coming out, or when you're sort of taking a new turn in your career. Social media can help with that. It can also grab other audience followers. So I use it pretty much constantly and regularly, and I think it's helped and been very important for my artist. It's something that I would look at if I was to take on another artist as well, because some artists who don't have any presence on social media would be very hard to break. But then again, you have complete control over what they, of what would come next. So maybe that would be a good thing.
So Pat, that sounds like you might be willing to take on another artist.
Well, I am. I'm never against it. It's just that as you all are saying, it has to be someone that really moves me. And I've had some wonderful artists that have gone. And so I occasionally am looking for another artist. Yeah.
Hey,
keeping my eyes open.
That's good.
Ears open, I should say.
Okay, Chris, social media, how do you tame that beast? What do you do with it?
Yeah, it's definitely important. I don't love it personally, but I stay on it because it's how I stay current, I guess. I'm constantly getting ideas from it. From the booking side, I see what other artists are doing, and like I said earlier, I see tour posters. I just see what folks are doing, and it reminds me, oh yeah, that venue over here, I should reach out to them. So it just keeps me current, I guess. From the artist side, I think it's definitely very important. But I do think, again, it's also important that they are realistic about it. Like you might have a huge following on socials, but it doesn't translate to ticket sales.
Ticket sales, exactly.
Right. So it's like balancing out. And I will say with some young artists, that's been a challenge because they get an idea that they're way bigger than they actually are in real life.
That's right.
Which could be a challenge, but super important. To be honest, I'm more interested in what Ryan has to say about this because I see what Big Fish does with their social media from the agency side, and it's certainly like they seem to have a strategy. They really are growing their following as an agency, and that's interesting to me. I've yet to be able to kind of crack that nut.
So, Ryan, that's your intro.
Well, to talk about it on the artist side, and I think this touches on everything, like to bring back that buzzword. I think if you just think about social media as like a buzz machine, and I think sometimes in the jazz industry, there's a lot of things that we could learn from other parts of the music world. And I don't like with it, but did you guys hear the story about the band Geese, the indie band Geese, and what their promo company did?
No.
Basically, they got in a little bit of trouble for this, but they were using a PR firm, and what that PR firm was doing was creating bots that went on Instagram and would make these fake accounts to comment or repost or do that. That's what we're up against. That's what the pop world is doing. That's what other music is doing. We're fighting, not fighting, but we're in the pool with these PR firms that are really utilizing social media in a way to create buzz and manufacture interest. I don't like that strategy, but what it tells me is that it's a hype machine. It's a buzz machine. And what we see with young bands, it's less about you're trying to sell your show through social media. It's that you're trying to sell yourself through social media. So we'll tell people, we've had people on big festivals before that never shared the poster. And it's like the whole point of taking that festival play was to show the world you were on that festival.
That's right.
Because some other talent buyer is flipping through and sees that. And it's that hype and buzz machine.
That's right.
I know Chris with Big Fish does a lot in sharing things on social media. So our artists have things from Big Fish we'll post things on Big Fish tagging our artists so they can share it.
Okay.
To bring back the guy, the newer sign we had, Sam Freibush, one of the things that excites me about him is the way he utilizes social media is really interesting to me. If somebody tags him when he's playing, he shares it. If they're doing stuff, it's just this kind of constant thing. And I'm always getting hit because there's buzz around him. Well, he's a big part of manufacturing that buzz.
Yes.
But not to get too long-winded, I also think that we've sacrificed old concert promotion just thinking that everything should be on social media now. It drives me crazy because I think a lot of promoters exist exclusively on social media. And all of us have experience of seeing on Instagram, somebody posts something and a comment comes in, "Where's Chicago?" And the band has to comment, "I was in Chicago a week ago," or something. Have you all seen those happen?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Things get lost on social media. So that's one part of the tool, but I still think bands should use email lists.
Yeah.
You should still have an email list at your merch table. I think you should have merch.
Yes.
I think having your band name on a t-shirt is as important as having an Instagram account.
Yep.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yep.
Social media is a tool. What we learned from our president and TikTok is that they can go away overnight, and these are rented followers. Now, if you have a mailing list, you have straight access into someone's inbox.
That's right.
And social media, unfortunately, is a very passive experience. People are just scrolling through. You'll be lucky if they stop on your content. You're lucky if the algorithm even shows you your content.
That's right.
But the email lists, this is old school. You're building a connection with individuals, with individual fans. The more you get emails, and now the big thing, it's been happening for a while, but text messages. I know the pop industry is spending a lot of money on SMS and
Mhm.
direct to fan because people are even more likely to look at a text message than an email. But all to say, it's about getting direct access to your fans. So
That's so true. Let me ask this final question. You all have been an amazing audience, and I knew that you would be. I want to ask this one last thing for everybody. What is the thing that you think people think about what you do that is completely false? What is it? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do they think about you when they think about an agent or a manager that's just not true? Michelle.
Okay, because I'm right next to you. You always come to me first, but it's okay. I think one of the misnomers is probably that we know everything. And we don't. The part of being a collaborative effort is that we work on things together. And also that, again, because you get a manager, that all of a sudden things are going to change.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to stick it out, it may change, but it does take time. But I'll be the first to say, I don't know everything. I'll find out, but I may not know. And I'm not afraid. I never like to say I don't know.
Mhm.
But that's straight up. That's honest. And if I don't know, I'll certainly find the answer.
That's right. That's right. Eric, what's the one thing that people think about managers that you think is just not true, and you want to dispel people of that notion?
maybe that if they're not hearing from us, they think we're not working on their behalf.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
The rhythm of our work, it's actually very much like jazz in a way, playing music. Yes, there are mail merges and pitches and campaigns and send this and this and this and this. But sometimes we're talking to a colleague who's a presenter, and you start talking about one artist, and then they ask about another artist, and it's sort of freewheeling, and then they see something on their Instagram feed that reminds them, oh, I actually want to talk to you about this. And then, so all to say that I think that we are, whether we have one artist or 30 artists that we're working with, we're always thinking about them. We wake up thinking about them. We go to bed thinking about them, and how to help them. And I do think that there is a misnomer that, oh, once I have a manager, I've made it, that I don't have to do anything more. It's really hard out there. We all do this because we love it. If we wanted to get rich, we would have done something else. But we believe in the art form and its sustainability and it continuing. So we are committed to helping all of our artists in any way that we can. And it shows up, some weeks feel like wins, and you get a big gig for your artist, or you get a commission or a grant or get a tour booked. And then the next week it's slow. And what I fight against is the sort of what have you done for me lately mindset.
Yeah.
We have to be partners. This is a journey. This is a marathon.
That's
Yeah.
right.
This is not a sprint.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
true. Ryan?
I would echo something that Michelle said, which is I think on the agency side too, especially new bands, that once you get an agent, if it's your first agent, you're actually kind of going to have to work a lot harder after that. It might take something off your plate, but it's going to put a lot more on it.
Yeah.
And then I would add to that there are no guarantees in this business.
Mm-hmm.
That's
That's right. That's
That's
right.
true. Chris?
Yeah, I that's basically what I was going to say. Yeah, seriously, same thing. And also, and that agents are bad and shady.
Yeah. Oh, that's yeah.
I think that's something that perhaps had some truth in in history, and maybe does today as well. But I think the majority of agents I know actually are really honest, hardworking people, and everything's very transparent. So don't be afraid.
Right.
Well, and you're talking about jazz agents, which I think are more respectable, at least in my humble opinion, than yes.
Perhaps. I just think most like the actual transactional nature of the business now is all on paper. I mean, it's not a cash business anymore.
Yeah.
Like I'm not sliding a bag of cash under the table. It's all it's all here, and you don't have to be afraid of it. You just have to deal with the reality of it.
So digital has helped us in that regard. So everybody, it's out in the open for everybody to see.
Right. Exactly.
So Pat, what do you think is one of the things that is just not true that you think a lot of people think?
Okay, so as managers, you a couple of you, I think Chris and Ryan, you said you're both artists, you're both musicians. I'm not a musician. I need help with musical and technical information. You have to talk me through your needs as an artist to perform, and when you're on tour, what you need to be sent ahead of time. So for me, it's guesswork if I don't have a clear indication from you what you need, and I think that artists don't realize that oftentimes.
Well, we have done, I think, a tremendous service to artists. We had about 60 or 70 who tuned in. I didn't get all the questions, but it's going to be more because it's going to be on the Alternative Venues for Jazz page. It's going to be on my page, my artist management page, my LinkedIn page, my YouTube page, so you can go back to it. I really appreciate everything that you did. And as I said, this is part of a series. And I think the next series that we're going to have will be record companies and then independent record companies, because there are a lot of people who want to get signed to the big majors, and the big majors are they're collaborating so much that it's probably going to end up being one major at one point. But I do want to have people who come on and talk about how artists, whether they have managers and agents, what they need to do to attract the attention, or maybe produce their own recording and how that happens. So that'll be probably the next thing. Thank you all so very much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Gail.
Thank you, Gail.
Thank you, Gail. This is
Very
great.
welcome.
Pleasure to be with all of you.
It's
Thank
your-
you.
Don't go away. Don't go away.